Well, if there was ever a time to be self-sustaining, I suppose this is it. Well, I'm going to get into all that in a minute, but let me talk about being self-sustaining. I think this is the time that everybody should start considering being as much self-sustaining as possible. Now, there will be some that says you can't be self-sustaining, not in today's society, you can't do it. I feel like I'm 95 to 99% there. I feel like I could stay on this property indefinitely without having to go out and go to the grocery store or get gas or anything. I really feel like I can do it. We have the chickens, and we know how to reproduce the chickens. We can incubate the chickens. They can provide us with a ton of food. Of course, we have our canned food, but you know, that only lasts so long. So you got to be able to replenish that. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't think about is this thing right here. It's a live trap. And raccoons and possums may be something that you want to consider eating. I mean, if you think about it, Beverly Hillbillies talked about coons, eating coon soup or stew or whatever. I mean, it wasn't that long ago people were eating raccoons, and for some reason they just stopped. I mean, I'll admit I've never ate one, but I'm prepared to eat one. I understand what it is to eat food you never had before and have to get it acclimated to the taste. Years ago, and this is going to sound silly, we had chickens. My ex-wife and I had chickens, and then she found a really good deal on ducks. We got these ducks. I bet there was 16, 17 of them. We brought them home, and they started producing eggs, and we found out she couldn't eat eggs. Some women who have had babies cannot eat a lot of B12. Of course, your body still needs B12, I'm not saying that, but you can't eat a lot of it. And duck eggs have a lot of B12. So it made her feel upset to the stomach. So she ate the chicken eggs, I ate the duck eggs. My daughter ate the duck eggs because we had a ton more duck eggs than we did chicken eggs. But that being said, ducks taste different. I didn't expect it to taste much different than turkey or chicken, but it did, and it was hard to eat. So these are the things you got to get used to. You got to understand that there are going to be things out there you have to eat that you don't like. I get this a lot in the comment section. Carolyn and I are carnivores. We only eat meat, eggs, cheese, and people will tell me, I don't know how you can eat that diet. I can't eat that many eggs. We may have to. Carolyn and I choose to, and after a while you'll get used to not being on carbohydrates and sugars. You're addicted. I hate to say that to you, but if you're eating carbohydrates and sugar, you're addicted to sugar. Your body is craving sugar. So if you're only eating eggs and meat, your body's screaming at you, I need carbohydrates. And it's going to take 30 to 60 days to get over that addiction. It takes a lot of willpower. Carolyn and I would eat popcorn every night. We stopped eating popcorn, we went and got cheese instead. It was a little bit more expensive, but that's what we decided to do for our evening snack instead of popcorn. And I'm telling you, it was hard not to make the popcorn. I mean, it's almost like, okay, well, we got a routine, let's go out and make the popcorn. It's just, once you recognize that it's addiction, you might be able to get off the addiction. But self-sustaining is possible. But one of the things you got to do is you got to reduce the amount of things that you need. I got one of these little pop-up notifications from Google. I get them every now and then, I don't know why. And it said generators, and so I clicked it. I've got two generators. I got a little bitty one here, 1500 watts, and then I got a 2500 watt dual fuel propane generator. I've showed them before, it's not worth going through again. But I've reduced the amount of time I got to run the generators immensely. I was going through about 10 gallons of gasoline every month, maybe even 3 weeks. Plus I was using propane to run the well pump. Well, this tank of gas right here has been sitting here for 6 weeks, and I got 1 gallon left in it. On a cloudy day, I'll run it for about 4 hours in the evening, and there's only been a few cloudy days. Today's partly cloudy, but we're getting charged up today. I already ran the well, so I'm not running propane at all. As a matter of fact, the last time I got propane was just a few weeks ago, but prior to that, I didn't get propane since April, so April to September. The thing is, I only filled 4 of them, and one of them was empty. I forgot to bring it back in April, So we use 3. You got to remember, I was also using the propane generator on the well some of that time. So I'm thinking we may be using 1 tank of propane every 3 or 4 months, 5 months, and we can get off propane real easy. We'll just start cooking with wood exclusively. When I was looking up this generator, when the notification came, I was reading all the different brands and different things, and one of the things says a generator that can run your entire house. And so I opened it and it said the essentials. So it's not the entire house, it was the essentials. A generator can run the essentials, and it was like 4,000 or 5,000 watt generator, which is pretty big. Like I said, my big one's 2,500 watts. Essentials: air conditioning, freezer, sup pump, and something else I can't remember. I thought, wait, what? Air conditioning? Air conditioning is not essential. I hate to break it to you folks, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Air conditioning is not essential. Carolyn and I have lived without air conditioning for 6 years. Now, temporarily, we had the air conditioner in this camper when we moved on this property for 1 summer. So I guess you can't really say 6 years, but this thing was out in the sun, not insulated very well. We were cooking inside of it. We were trying to get our tiny house built, is what I'm trying to say. But you don't need air conditioning. You can live without it. We were in Utah in August, in the desert, and we didn't have air conditioning. So it can be done. So it's not an essential. So you have to get rid of a lot of things. Now, Carolyn and I, when it comes to electric, we run the freezer, the well pump. We also now just started running a coffee pot once a day to make hot water. We figure it's cheaper to run the coffee pot than it is the propane water heater. So she heats up hot water for her dishes. And that's all off solar, so that's free. Then we have a tablet for my YouTube videos and a couple phones. For lights, we have these rechargeable lanterns. Have 2 of them, and I just rotate them out. Is the freezer essential? No, it's not. I've showed not that long ago how to can food. When you're canning food, you have to consider metal lids. Self-sustaining. In that video, I showed you how to can with metal lids, but we use Tadler lids. Those are reusable, and we got enough that will last us the rest of our lives because the rubber rings last 10 uses. If we are confined to this property, we'll shut off the freezer. That gives me plenty of electric to run the coffee pot and the well. That gives us hot water and water. All our foods can. We have electric for the water, and we have electric for hot water. Those are the essentials. I don't even know if hot water is really that essential. We could heat water over wood. Now, firewood. I do believe heat is essential. More people die from cold weather than they do hot weather. In order to survive hot weather, drink water. Not soda, not tea, not liquids, water. What about electrolytes? You gotta have electrolytes. Salt is an electrolyte. Sugar is an electrolyte. As long as you're not drinking gallons of water during a radio contest in Chicago, you're not going to die from it. If you feel lightheaded after drinking water, take a little salt or sugar. Of course, we don't eat sugar, but electrolytes make water conductive. That's all it is. So your body can send out electrical signals, electrolytes, electrical signals. If your body gets too diluted, it can't send out electrical signals. It's very hard to do that. So don't be fooled by these people that say you got to have Gatorade and all that. That's sugar. They're addicted. And drink water. So if you drink water in the summer, you'll be fine. That's what Carolyn and I do. We drink a lot of water. Between the 2 of us, we probably drink 3 gallons every 2 days. But in the wintertime, you can get too cold where you can't keep warm. You'll start shivering and you can die. Hypothermia, especially if you get wet. Cold weather is much more risky than hot weather. So, firewood. Well, of course, you can chop down a tree with an axe. I mean, we can go back to the old style. Carolyn and I cut all our firewood. Of course, we had a chainsaw, but we split it with a manual log splitter and a maul. And we got 15 years worth. Every time I say that, somebody says, you can't have 15 years worth of firewood, it'll rot. You can have 15 years worth of firewood. I've explained the story that we had firewood down in the woods when we moved here. Last time anybody lived here was back in the 90s. There was a piece of sheet metal over it. I took sheet metal off and I burned it. There was nothing rotted about it. Hickory and oak here in Missouri. Now, if you're up there in the Northwest and you're using pine, and yeah, it'll rot pretty quick. But hickory and oak, it takes 2 to 3 years for it to get cured, so you can actually use it to get 20% or less moisture content. Out of the 15 years, you're already subtracting 3, so that gives you 12 years that it's got to sit there. As long as it's stacked up and the water can drain off of it, it'll last a long, long time. The only reason I bring that up is because somebody will say, it won't last that long. So knowledge is power. And the problem is a lot of people have the wrong knowledge. They go on assumptions that they know things that they don't know. Like firewood will rot. But the biggest thing I think people need to do is reduce their essentials. And it's not that hard to live without things. And that's what's incredible. Carolyn's son came over here to live for several months in that camper that we bought for him. And he could not fathom the thought of reducing what he needed to reduce. No air conditioning. He had to have tons of water. Carolyn and I use about 30 to 50 gallons a day, depending if she has to do laundry or not. Think about that, 30 or 50 gallons a day where everybody else is using 200. We're carrying in used laundry water to flush the toilets. It conserves water. So if you're having to get water out of a well with solar panels and you're limited on the amount of electric you can use, start conserving water, recycling it. I know people just can't stand the thought of that. Then, of course, he didn't want to eat eggs all the time. And we have so many eggs. I mean, we could have fed him really easily with just eggs. But nobody ever thinks that anything bad can happen. Everything will continue on and be okay. 2008, housing market crash, people lost their homes. Well, I didn't lose my home, but people did. It can get worse. It may get worse. I think what has happened is we forgot, because many of us, probably all of us, were not alive during the Great Depression. But the Great Depression, people didn't have things. And the reason people survived the Great Depression so well, if you think about it, folks out in the countryside did the best. The Waltons, remember the Waltons? They did really well. Why? Because they knew how to raise chickens, garden, of course that's got carbohydrates, but chickens, they didn't need a lot of electric or any electric. Their houses were paid for. Our house is paid for. That's what key is, be debt free. Don't let anybody take your stuff away. And if the bank owns it, it's not your stuff. So I told you in yesterday's video, downsize. Get yourself a tiny house. Get rid of that big house. The reason I'm bringing this up is because everybody's talking about it, and I probably should talk about it too. I'm not fearful of it. That's the thing. Everybody else is scared. I'm not scared. I don't care. I don't need money. The only reason I have money is because there are things I like to get, but I don't have to get. But we just passed $33 trillion in debt. So we just back in May, I think we passed 32 trillion, and here we are now 33 trillion. And I know nobody can understand what that means. But if every man, woman, and child decided to pay off the debt today, I think it ends up being $99,000 you would owe tomorrow. I don't have that. I bet a lot of you don't have that. So how do we pay for it? Plus, children. Children don't even have jobs. So how do we pay for it? We don't pay for it. I remember back in the 80s, I remember somebody saying that if the debt ever went past $35 trillion, the country would go broke. If the country goes broke, the world goes broke. The entire economy crashes. That was back then when you'd say quadrillion, billion, zillion, zillion, and you don't even know what all these things you're just saying means. I couldn't even fathom $1 trillion. 30 years ago, I didn't even know what that was. I can't even tell you how many zeros that is off the top of my head. I'd have to get a calculator out and count it all out. It's a lot, and we don't have it. You don't have it. Well, at least the majority of you don't have it. I certainly don't have it. Your children and grandchildren don't have it. So how do we pay for it? We don't. There are ways to solve this. The government could solve this, but the people won't let them. Social Security being an example. Social Security is going to have to crash, and it's going to crash before I hit retirement. I said that in yesterday's video. We're paying out more than what was paid into, and we're just borrowing money on money that we don't have. So I know people are going to hate that, but it's a tax now. Social Security is a tax. It is not something that you paid into to get back. I won't get it back. Carolyn just filed, so she'll get some of it back, but by the 2030s, it's gone. And are you going to re-elect the politician that it crashes on? Of course not. I would say that you need to start getting self-sufficient now. Reduce everything. How much electric you use, how much food you're buying, how much sugar you're eating, how many processed foods you're eating. Get off the air conditioning and try to find some firewood. So if you'll click this up next box, take that video where I was talking about in this video. So I hope I can inspire you to take this seriously, because if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen. So you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.